today I want to talk to you about things that I don't do, and particularly things that I've noticed other industry leaders don't do in their field. I find that industry leaders unequivocally know their value and they're not shaken by it, and they don't look necessarily for external things to validate them. If you see yourself in this, you can stop doing these things and get on the road to being a big name in your own field. Let's get into it. Hey, CourtneyLSanders here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to me, I'm a full-time online life and business coach as well as wife and mom. I wear all the hats and do all the things, but today I want to talk to you about things that I don't do, and particularly things that I've noticed other industry leaders don't do in their field that struggling entrepreneurs and struggling coaches tend to do, right? And these are things that I did when I was struggling to get my business off the ground and when I was struggling really to just, make a name for myself. So I'm really big in believing that all of us have a unique purpose, we have unique gifts, and that there's really no reason to compete because everybody should be operating in a swim lane that truly only they can operate in. In fact, this is the core philosophy that I built my signature coaching program, the Next Big Name Bootcamp, based on. So if you want to learn more about that, you can click the link below to learn more about it and ultimately apply. But with that in mind, let's talk about the things that industry leaders just, maybe it's on a subconscious level, maybe it's something that they had to work through, but that they do, that struggling coaches don't do, so that if you see yourself in this, you can stop doing these things and get on the road to being a big name in your own field. Let's get into it. Okay, the first thing that I recognize that industry leaders do is simply that they know their value. In fact, this is why I talk so much about why having some personal experience around the breakthrough that you help your clients get is so important. I actually talk about this a lot when I speak about certifications. I have quite a few videos on should you get a certification, should you not get a certification, how to build a coaching business without a certification. For the record, I'm actually in the process of getting my certification. I talk all about why in this video here so you can learn more about that. But I've noticed that a lot of people or a lot of online coaches who want to get into the space will often run to a certification as a way to give them value. Like, oh, if I get the certification, then I'm more valuable. And while you will have an additional skill set, yes, that makes you more valuable, you have to have a base level of value in the sense that you have a level of confidence, you have a perspective, you have a breakthrough that you know that you are called to help people get. And so when you've gone through that process yourself, especially when it's a breakthrough that you've provided for yourself, a result that you've gotten that a lot of people come to you and they're like, how did you get that result? Can you coach me on how to do that as well? I see that you've achieved this. I want to achieve that as well. You kind of innately know what the value is. But if you lack that, if you don't have a particular result that you yourself have gotten, that you then are going to coach others on, the value feels shaky, right? And so then it's like, oh, well, let me get a coaching certification so that I can, say, oh, I can coach you on this and I have some value. But if you're not careful, you can still be essentially looking for external things to validate you versus your own life experience and the breakthroughs that you've gotten. And so I found that industry leaders, whether they have a certification or not, whether they have a PhD or not, whether whatever, they have any education, credentialing, whatever, I find that they know their value. In fact, one of the biggest leaders in the online coaching field, right? I know many of you who are watching this video look up to Tony Robbins, right? I think we can all say from the very beginning of his career, he knew his value, regardless of what anyone else had to say. He knew the breakthroughs that he could get people. He was consistently getting people those breakthroughs. Whether he got a certification or not, he was like, hey, I can help people do this, and I'm gonna go out here and help people, and I know how valuable this is. So I find that industry leaders unequivocally know their value, and they're not shaken by it, and they don't look necessarily for external things to validate them. The second thing I noticed that industry leaders do that many struggling coaches and online entrepreneurs don't do is they don't worry about if their content is good enough, right? I see this a lot. People are like, okay, I want to coach people on this and I do have this result. I've gone through this experience and I was going to create a video about this, or I was going to make a podcast. Should I say this? Should I say that? Is this good enough? I think industry leaders have an inherent feeling, or I think the better word is an inherent sense of destiny, right? They have an inherent sense of it's not just that I know how to do this thing. It's not just that I've been through this thing, but I am called to this thing and I am called to these people. And it's that inner sense of destiny and inner sense of commitment to a greater purpose that allows them to move past a lot of the insecurities around the second guessing themselves, imposter syndrome, to just put out whatever they need to put out, right? And I talk about this idea of allowing your best to get better. So many struggling coaches won't put anything out because they're worried that it's not the best. Well, guess what? It's not the best, right? Even me right now, like maybe this video is not the best. Maybe the video that I do 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, 2 years from now will be better than what it is today. But while it might not be the best in the absolute sense, it is my best as I stand here before you. And I am confident enough to know that my best, based on what I have to give at this current juncture in life and in the world, is enough. And I find that a lot of struggling coaches don't have that. They don't believe that their best is enough. And they're not okay with their best getting better. It's almost like if their best gets better, they believe that it's somehow an indictment on what they previously gave, and that was proof that they shouldn't have been coaching people. And I'm like, what? I think about how I am a way better coach than I was when I was, in my late 20s, just getting in this game, fresh out of college, didn't even have kids yet, didn't have that perspective around, managing my time and self-discipline from the arena as a busy mom, right? You want to get something done, ask a busy mama, she'll show you how to do it. But I didn't let that stop me from presenting the best that I had to give at that time and the life experience that I had at that time, because it was valuable to other women who were where I was at the time, right? And so I think back now, fast forward several years later, and there's so much new information that I've learned, so much richness in my life experiences that I can add to it, but it doesn't take away from what I gave back then. It just means that what I have to give now is even better, right? But it doesn't mean that what I had to give back then was bad. And so I find that this is something that a lot of industry leaders inherently understand, and they have faith in their content, but I find that a lot of struggling coaches don't. So if you find yourself second guessing this is something that you might want to get a handle on. Another thing I've noticed that industry leaders do is that they don't base their prices necessarily on what other people are charging. This is like the number one thing that so many new coaches who are getting started, and I get it, you want to benchmark. You're like, what is within the realm of possibilities in this industry? But as you do this for a long enough time, and again, you understand your value and you get value for other people, you understand that value is relative. And so it's not that my price is based on what somebody else is charging, but my price is based on the value that I provide to the person that I am coaching or that I am targeting. That's the relationship with my price, right? My relationship is vertical. It's not horizontal. It's not me and my peers. It's me and my clients. And so while my peers may or may not be able to charge what I'm charging, my price is uniquely connected to the value that I can give and the people that I am giving it to. And so I find that a lot of struggling coaches don't understand either parts of that equation. They don't understand the unique value that they have to give, and they don't have a real clear concept of the unique, demographic or person or target market that they're giving it to. And so they end up looking to the left and the right of them to gauge well, should I charge this much or should I charge this much? But again, they could be limiting themselves, or it's what does what someone else charges have to do with anything? It's what are you providing? You're not providing the same thing that they're providing. And if you are, that's a real problem, because then you're just providing a commodity. But that's the definition and part of coaching, is your unique ability to provide your unique clients a breakthrough. And so that's a very direct relationship that's going to have its own economics, attached to that. So in fact, I talk about this in depth in my 5-day free Nail Your Niche challenge. So you should definitely check that out if you haven't been a part of that. That is a challenge that I do live for 5 days. It helps you nail your niche, but not just, what's my niche in coaching, but think more deeply about your target market, finding people who can afford to pay your prices. If you struggle with any of those things, even if you feel like you've been in coaching for a while and you know what your niche is, people think they know their niche, and then they go through this challenge and they're like, oh my goodness, I totally didn't know my niche. So I would definitely sign up for this while this is still free. This is kind of an experiment that I've been doing. I really enjoy doing them, but I can't commit that even by the time this video comes out, that this is something that I will be continuing to do in the future. So if you click the link below and you see that we have a live challenge coming up, make sure you definitely register for it. But yes, this is what I'm talking about. Again, you don't want to compare yourself to other people's prices. Industry leaders understand that, their pricing is uniquely based on them and the clients that they serve, and everybody else is just wallpaper. All right, I have more where that came from, but first I want to hear from you. What industry do you want to be a leader in? Share in the comments below. All right, the next thing I've noticed about industry leaders, kind of going along with what we just talked about in terms of not looking at what other people are charging, is that they also don't look at what other people are offering. Like, they don't offer things just because somebody else is offering them, and they don't structure their offers the way that everybody else is structuring them. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but it's based on what they want to create and what they feel like is the best way to provide that value, not, oh, well, such and such, has a 6-week program and she does, weekly calls. So I'm gonna make mine a 6-week program and I'm gonna make weekly calls too. Again, what does that have to do with anything? It's not a left or right situation. It's a front and back, right? It's a vertical kind of relationship. It's not horizontal. So industry leaders have an innate understanding and faith, again, in what their value is. So they then structure their programs according to the value and the ROI that they want to provide. They know that if I am whatever, relationship coach, a health and wellness coach, etc., and this is the breakthrough that I am providing my client, the structure of their program is therefore going to be dependent on what they, as the expert, determine the client needs in order to get that breakthrough. So for some coaches, it might be, yes, I'm going to do a call every week. For other coaches, it might be, we have one call, but it's an in-person session. Actually, it's not a call at all. Maybe you fly to me or I fly to you and we're going to hash this out in person. For other people, there are no calls, but it's just like, we talk via voice notes every day or something. I don't know. It could be handwritten letters sent by pigeon carrier. Like, it's whatever you determine is best in order to get the client the result. That's how you structure your program, and that's how you determine what it is you even want to offer, because it's based on, again, the value that you have and what you're providing to the client. You're not necessarily looking at what someone else is doing and copying them. Which leads me to the next thing that industry leaders definitely don't do, is they don't copy, right? They create. They don't copy. So I'm all for being inspired or getting inspiration that, like, oh, this is a way that something can be done, right? So maybe you didn't realize that you don't have to do calls every week. You can do calls every other week, right? And maybe you realized that from someone else who was doing that, and now that becomes an option for you because you're like, oh, I didn't realize it, right? Great, that's an inspiration. But to say, I'm gonna do exactly what this person is doing because I see that they're successful, that's copying, right? So you wanna create from your own place, create, again, from your own authentic value, from what you have to offer, be innovative. What are the things that you see missing? Industry leaders do that a lot. They're like, I know everybody is offering this, but what I uniquely see is missing is this. And so this is what I'm gonna focus on. And I'm going to, offer that because that's what I think is worthwhile in the world. And that's what I think is interesting. And so they create from that place, not, oh, I see somebody else doing this, so I'm gonna do that too. So again, to be an industry leader, you kind of have to, rise above what everyone else is doing and really operate from a place of creation, not necessarily copying. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. If this touched a nerve and you're like, oh, I long to be a leader in my industry, then you are gonna love my signature coaching program. It's called the Next Big Name Bootcamp. This is my 12-month coaching program that shows you how to build an online coaching business from A to Z, completely from scratch. But beyond that, truly how to be a thought leader. That's why the program is called the Next Big Name in your field. And it's not just me. We have clients who have put these practices to use and have generated multi-six figures in their businesses and become leaders in their own right in their individual field. So if you want to learn more about that, you can click the link below, learn more about the program. And if you feel so inclined, you can apply and we will review your application. And if we think you're a good fit and that you're someone that we can help, then we will invite you to a call with my enrollment team. So click the link below to learn more about that. All right, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you can't wait for my next video, make sure you're subscribed to my podcast, The Courtney Sanders Show, on both iTunes and Spotify. And if you can't wait for my next podcast or my next YouTube video, make sure you are following me on Instagram, CourtneyLSanders on Instagram. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.